Welcome back, everybody, to your Cre8tivity. We're on a Skype call once again, quarantine time podcasting, I guess. And tonight we're on a call with Rick Derris himself, Rick Derris from Clerks, ERNIE O'DONNELL. How are you, Ernie?
I'm good, man. Hanging in there.
How is the weather there in Jersey?
Jersey's not too bad. Today we were about 50 degrees or so. But it's a little cold, a little rainy. But it's better than snow. We had a light winter, so I'll take it.
Yeah, ours was pretty light too. We had a couple big storms which caused snow days, but I'm happy it's spring.
Yeah, so am I.
So I mentioned Clerks and mentioned New Jersey. You are a longtime friend of Kevin Smith, famous director. How did you meet him? You've been friends since grade school, right?
Yeah, we met in the 5th grade in Catholic school, OLPH. They used to call us little grasshoppers. We used to wear green and white outfits. But yeah, I met Kevin in the 5th grade, and we've been friends now for almost 45 years. So it's been a long road.
Now everybody sees this big, outgoing person. How was he back then?
I mean, Kev was a little more reserved. He was a little never confrontational. He was a little shy. I mean, I think back then kids were different. So Kev being overweight was kind of, a thing that he had to deal with, which kind of stinks. But back then when we were younger, that's just the way it was. Kids were, kind of mean. But I surrounded myself with friends like that. Kev, which was a little husky, I'll call it. My friend Sambo, Sam Holland, he was husky. I was the skinny guy. My friend Mike Bellicose. We really didn't give a shit, to be honest.
Yeah.
Kev had a great attitude, and he loved movies and comedy and SNL and all the cool stuff that we liked. And he had a great imagination, as we all did back then, and we just clicked and got along really well.
That's awesome. What were you like back then? Were you an athlete? Were you?
I was, well, strange enough, when we met in the 5th grade, I got left back in the 5th grade. And in Catholic school, it's not always for not being smart enough. My official reasoning for being left back in the 5th grade was that I was not there. The principal, who was a nun, her reasoning was I was not mature enough to proceed to the 6th grade. Now, that decision laid in the hands of my mother, meaning they brought my mother in for a meeting saying how much of a class clown I was in school, and I was always smiling and making jokes.
Yeah.
And they gave her the ultimate decision of saying, we're going to leave it up to you. Should your son proceed to the 6th grade or not? And my mother worked for the court system. She was the court clerk, and ultimately she said no. So I got left back because my immaturity. But it was a blessing in disguise because I met two of my best friends in the whole world, Mike Bellicose, who plays the inner row guy in Clerks, as everybody knows him, and Kevin Smith. So I have no problem being left back. I mean, my life changed dramatically just because of that decision that my mother made. Who knows where I would be now, or who knows how my life would have changed, but there was a reason for it. So
that's great. So during the time of when he was getting Clerks together and starting to get a cast together, did he have a part for you set out, or did you have to come audition for a few parts?
I mean, a lot of the View Askew fans kind of know a little bit of how the story happened and what went on. It was documented a little bit in the snowball effect in the Clerks 10th anniversary, which on some levels, as far as I'm involved, was inaccurate. And I kind of straightened that out a little bit on the new movie that's coming out, Shooting Clerks, the bio about Kevin Smith and how he created Clerks and his upbringing. But basically what happened was at the tail end of high school, when Kevin was going to go to film school and we left, we had graduated, Kevin went to film school and we kind of had a little bit of I hate to say it, but we kind of had a little bit of a rough patch there for a little bit. And our friendship kind of went south for a small moment while he went away. And he reached out to me and said that he was writing a movie, which I was, which I was really happy about. Knew that he would one day because how talented he was, and how great his writing was. And he said he was writing it for me. And he said he was writing this character for me, and that he would show me the script when he was done. And I said, okay. I said, of course I'll read it. And I saw that as a friendly gesture for us to kind of get back on track and to get back into the groove that we had. So he presented me with the script. I read it. He told me I was going to play the lead of Dante. And that there was no need for me to audition because pretty much Kevin knew what my capabilities were. He's known me since the 5th grade, and we've done comedy sketches together, plays together, a whole bunch of things together. So he knew what I could do. So he said, you don't have to audition. He's like, but this is your part, and we're going to have auditions to cast everybody else. So what proceeded was he had auditions at the First Avenue Playhouse, and he had asked me about coming there. And I said, well, if I got time, I'll come there. And I said, but you know what? He was trying to get a hold of Jeff Anderson to audition. And Jeff was a funny guy in high school. Really great. Cool guy, quick-witted, very animated. And he wanted nothing to do with acting at all.
Right.
But I somehow convinced him to come with me to the auditions with Mike Bellicose, because we were just going to go hang out and watch Kev and see the process. So we sat or leaned against the wall in the back and watched the process go on. At that time, Kev knew that I was there and that we were just watching. He saw that I brought Jeff. He was able to get Jeff to audition for the role of Randall. But I think Jeff may have auditioned for a couple other things too. But Randall was the one that ultimately, obviously, he got. But at that point, Kev was reading, auditioning other actors, and asked me if I would throw some lines with one of the actors. And like anybody who's in the industry knows that as like a casting director, or you go into a room, the casting director pretty much feeds you lines, and the actor that they're auditioning does their part and creates that character.
All right.
I went up there with the intention of doing it just like a casting director. And Kevin also knows from our past that I never really would give my character 100% until I actually started shooting or was on stage. When we did all our plays, anything like that, or our comedy sketches, we would never really fully do anything until we actually hit that stage, and then everything would explode. The characters would come out. So he knew my style. So that wasn't an audition for me. That was just me feeding lines to somebody. And that kind of got a little messed up along the way, and people thought that that was my audition, which it wasn't. And then the snowball effect, that kind of says it is, which is inaccurate. And I've talked about that before on some podcasts and Q&A panels and things like that. And that was represented in the movie Shooting Clerks, which is coming out hopefully by the end of the year. So that's, if you want to say I auditioned, I mean, that's the real story of how it happened. And from that, I guess the people that were in the room with Kevin at the time kind of started swaying him a different way and saying that maybe somebody else should play that role. And it ultimately went to Brian O'Halloran, who, at the end of the day, regardless of how things happened, because it's all water under the bridge as far as I'm concerned, it was the right choice. I mean, Brian O'Halloran brought a great character to Dante. He played it extremely well, the way it should be played. If I ultimately would have played Dante, it would have been different. It would have been a little smoother, a little cooler, still maybe a little bit of a schlub, you know, but it would have been different. People would have been used to that style, but the style that Brian brought to it was just, you know, the one that it really needed. So, you know, I have no problems with the way it went. Very happy with everybody, and we're all friends. Me and Brian are good friends, and I've talked to him about this personally years ago, because I think at some point Brian thought I may have had a little resentment towards him, but that was never the case, ever. So, no, everything's good. I mean, we're all adults, we're all friends, and things happen for a reason. So, it is what it is.
And then you've appeared in a few other of his films, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Strike Back, and the new Reboot.
Yeah.
Tell us about Reboot. That I bet that was a crazy shoot at the con.
Oh, so you've seen it, which is good.
Yeah, I've seen it three times. I saw the Fathom Theater,
okay.
You know, the theater run, and then when it came here to Salt Lake, I went to the roadshow screening, and then when I bought it on video, I watched it. So I've sunk at least $100 into that movie just to see it.
Very much. That kind of was. I got a call from Kev while they were already in New Orleans shooting.
Right.
He said to me, he goes, "Well, I'm thinking of doing a Clerks panel thing for Reboot." He gave, you know, I read the script a long time earlier, so I knew kind of the concept. I knew the scene he was talking about, but he had the idea of introducing the Clerks panel, which I thought was really good. I mean, the Clerks people should be in this somehow. So he had me to rally around and get Marilyn and Scott Schiaffo and Cousin Johnny, who, you know, he's in touch with anyway, Cousin Johnny. So I got everybody together, helped out with the flights, and arranged it for us to go down there, and he wanted to keep it top secret. He didn't want nobody to know what was going on. We tried to keep it, you know, as under the radar as possible, which we did. We even took a group photo, which he was adamant about. He's like, nobody can have this photo. You can't show it to anybody. You can't do anything. I think we were like one of the, because he was released, as you see, he was releasing himself all the cameos that were being done.
Yeah.
Which I was kind of shocked about. I wish he would have left a few of them, you know, in the dark so people were a little more, you know, excited about it. But it worked out. I mean, we had a great time there. And then when he showed us what we were actually doing, I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, so, it was very clever. Won't give it away. People go watch it. It's on Amazon for free right now. But yeah, it was a great gag.
And it's a quick gag.
Yeah.
But the way that he does it, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but the way that he does it is just genius. I mean, it really, I mean, because he said to me, he's like, listen, this is going to be a memorable moment because of what we're doing. And he actually showed it to me right after they did it. He had his tech guy work it up. He worked it up I mean, I can't believe how fast he had it done. And he showed it to me, and I was like, holy shit, dude, that's pretty cool. You know, so I was pretty happy. I mean, we had a great time, and it's always good to hang out with Kev on set and, you know, shoot the shit and watch him do his thing. But it was a great atmosphere down there. The crew was great. The hotel that he got us was great. I mean, I have no complaints. I mean, he really does, he does it right.
Well, it's one of my favorites. I think Clerks 2 is probably my ultimate favorite.
Oh
Then the
yeah.
original, then the original Clerks, then Dogma, then this. It's probably no, probably even with Chasing Amy in that fourth spot. But yeah, it's pretty high up. I really enjoy it. Now, you've been in a few other of his non-Jay and Silent Bob movies. Uh, well, all of them except, I guess, uh, Make a Porno. Um, what were those sets like without the usual Jay and Bob kind of hijinks to it? Because those other three are quite a bit different than his
Right.
regular run.
The first one I was in was probably referring to was Red State.
Right.
I had a small part in Red State. I played a SWAT assault team member. I got to do my own stunts. I got blown up. I got to play with machine guns and run through fires and explosions. Uh, that was out in Santa Ana at the Firestone Ranch. We shot that, and that was really cool. And I actually worked with Michael Parks on that level and watch him do his thing. It was a master class. I
Yeah.
mean, you just, I mean, having John Goodman there and working with, along with him there and stuff like that is cool. But to actually watch Michael Parks do his thing and the character and the different ways he would do it each time he shot was just amazing. And the nicest, sweetest guy in the world. And that set was, again, everybody loves him because he treats the cast and the crew so great in such a good way. And same as I was down in Florida, I think it was last year or a year and a half ago now, maybe. I did Kilroy was here, the anthology he's doing with the Ringling School.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I played two parts. I played a priest. Well, I'll say this: I played a good priest and a pedophile priest. So I have two roles.
Both
And
ends of the spectrum.
yep. And it was hot as balls down there. And Kevin's always thinking of ways to make the cast and crew forget about how bad things are and give them some sort of appreciation for how hard they are working. So he would send ice cream trucks to the set.
Oh, so cool.
Yes. And I mean, that's what people remember. I mean, he does things like that to show his appreciation of how much work these guys put in for him. And he did the same thing on Red State. Each day he'd have a different food truck come there, and that's besides the normal catering and the
All
normal
right.
services. This would be like a little specialty thing that he would just to show his appreciation for everything that these guys do, which is, that's the right way to do it. I mean, he does it with style. They all love him. You know, he's very laid back when it comes to directing on no matter what, if it's a Jay and Bob movie or if it's a regular movie, you know, he knows his position. He knows what he's capable of doing, and he lets the other crew do their thing because that's what they're the masters at. He knows that, and he appreciates it, and he always shows that appreciation to them, which is, you can't ask for anything more than that.
No, that's how it should be everywhere with everything, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Encourage,
but it's not.
encouraging. No, unfortunately.
Yeah,
No, let's talk about Shooting Clerks. It's a biopic about Kevin, and it's been featured in an episode of Comic Book Men,
yeah.
and you're a producer on it. Tell us about the project and where they are with it.
So as of in the last, from what I understand, in the last couple months, they've been toying around with the idea of possibly even changing the name of Shooting Clerks. But I think well, from what I was told, I talked to Brian O'Halloran just recently about it, and he kind of stepped in because he's one of the producers also. He stepped in and was adamant about it, not changing it. And he was correct. And everybody was trying to, had the same opinion that it's not a good idea. Because for the last, almost 2 years, 3 years, they've been rolling with this thing.
Right? Yeah.
Was it as Shooting Clerks? It's a brilliant title. especially with the irony of how the original Clerks ended. Also,
yeah, I was going to say, yeah, that alternative ending,
right?
with Dante.
Yes, and cousin Johnny, who plays the killer, coming in and killing Dante. So they're working all that out. They got a new poster that they're working on. There's just some red tape stuff that they're going through. I believe they're really, really close, and from what they're telling us, by the end of the year, they're really hoping to have it out. And those guys over there are just awesome. Chris Downey and his whole crew were just great. I mean, they didn't shoot some of our stuff here in the States. That was done by Ryan.
Ryan James.
Ryan James, yes.
Yeah, I met him briefly at the reboot when it was here in Salt Lake.
Ryan's a great guy, very talented, and he directed my scene as Sergeant Svenning, which is I had a plan doing, and I was actually able to bring my niece in to play the new version of the girl buying cigarettes. If you remember,
oh, nice. Yeah.
I mean, the way that it even happened was just so great by them doing these small little vignettes of movies about Jay and Bob, like Get Greedo, and Kevin recognizing it and noticing what these guys were doing and then getting behind it and giving them the support that they needed and that they were looking for. And then to get all us Clerks people involved and the whole View Askew universe kind of just jumping in and helping these guys out because they're such a wonderful group of guys and girls. And, I couldn't be happier with the product. The copy I saw at the Atlantic Cinema over a year ago, I thought was really, really good. And there was a few glitches because it wasn't 100% yet. But I was very happy with what these guys did on a super low budget.
Well, and that also mirrors what Kevin originally did with Clerks, so it's very, very poetic how it's working out for them. Speaking of being a producer on that, you also were the producer on Silent but Deadly, his comedy special. That's when he had his heart attack.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wasn't at the theater when that happened, thank God, because I would have been freaking out. But I was in the early stages of that stand-up special. So Kevin brought me in on the early stages of that to do a lot of the setup, organizing, getting things together, and putting things in place in order for ultimately it being taken on by Showtime. And then once I got it in, kind of got a lot of things into motion, then it went out to LA and it was shot. Originally, we were going to shoot it at the Ryman Theater in Nashville. But then things changed once Showtime got involved and it was shot locally in Glendale. So, yeah, I mean, I got that. That was a strange thing for me. I got that phone call early that next morning about Kevin, and I mean, my heart sunk. It's an unimaginable feeling to get that call, knowing that one of your friends of 40 some odd years has just had a heart attack. It's just, it's going to happen eventually with people and friends, and when you get older. But he's a young guy, and we consider ourselves pretty young still, and that's just a real kick in the gut when you get that. But I am super stoked that he's healthy and feeling better and is in great shape. And I ask him how his health is all the time and to make sure he takes care of himself. And he seems to be doing that and doing it right. So it's a good thing.
When that happened, it was about 2 weeks after he did a show here in Utah, he usually does it when he comes to Sundance, since he's out here anyway.
Right.
But I, this time I was hanging out in the green room with him, and it was really cute because he was on his stomach with his legs up on his phone. He looked like a teenage girl, but we weren't talking to each other. And then that happened 2 weeks later, and with not knowing, when it happened, what would come, if he'd get better or if, what happened. And it's just like, it just reminded me, you gotta, when situations are happening, you gotta embrace them, take advantage of them the best you can. Just don't let them, slip away. So it helped me rethink my mortality and get more focused on things. And
I think it also it regenerated Kevin on multiple levels to get to doing things that he always wanted to do, regardless of what the naysayers say, the critics say. He disregards all that, as you know. I mean, if you're a fan, he just does what he wants to do, regardless, because he does it for the fans and he does it for himself. So he was, he just was brought to a different level after this, and I also think that it made a lot of people around him or that love him. He's got millions of fans. Also realize that, you know what, life is short, and I need to do what I always wanted to do. May it be make a film or make an animated TV series or artwork, anything to do, you got to do it. If it's good or bad, who cares? Just at least do it. Just go out there and do it. I mean, not everything's going to be gold, but at least say that you did something and you tried and you started. I mean, I think he kind of, did that for a lot of people with that also.
And that got him to rewrite the Clerks III script he was working on, which brings us back to your organizing events thing, because you did a Clerks III script read with him, but you were the main organizer behind it as a fundraiser for the theater where you guys had your auditions for Clerks. Tell us about that event.
Right. So, well, before we did the Clerks reading, I've done some stuff for him on different levels, but I had ran the Vulgarthon for him just recently. Before that, I'm going to say maybe 8 months before that I ran, or 6 months before that I ran Vulgarthon, which is a movie, an all-day movie experience with View Askew movies and swag bags and all that kind of stuff. So I ran that whole event and Q&As, and he loved it, and I thought I did a great job. So then he proposed the idea to me about doing the First Avenue Playhouse and if I wanted to put that together. So, of course, I jumped right in and did that. And I'll tell you what, I had a blast. We all read multiple parts. And we didn't know what was going on until Kevin showed up that day. So we were, we were kind of by the seat of our pants, which is actually was good in a way, because I was asking him as the organizer, I was like, Kev, I need the scripts. I need you to send them. I need it so I can hand it out to the players that are going to do their thing. And who specifically are you bringing somebody else in that I don't know about? I mean, I need to know all the details. So he kind of held off until like the first 2 hours before the show.
Oh,
that's kind of when we got the scripts.
Wow.
So none of us actually were able to read it fully. I mean, Brian had read it before in the past. I kind of knew a little bit of what the script was about, but never read it in detail. So he was just giving us the characters right there in the green room at the Playhouse, saying, "You're going to read this. You're going to do that. You're going to do that, and then you're going to do 4 more characters, and you're going to do this." So we were all taking notes, on the pen. We had the yellow highlighters going, and we're like, all right. And he goes, "This will be fun. This will work. This will work." And what was cool about it is as we started reading it, Kev would give little tiny commentaries, quick ones, while we were doing it, and he would
Yeah.
also give direction, like he was directing.
Oh.
Oh, Brian, you're not. Give me a little bit more of this, or you're not. That's not how it would be done. It would be done like this. Or Ernie, you got to be a little bit more louder, or he's doing this in this moment, and I'm like, okay. So it was really fun, and the crowd loved it. I mean, they just loved it. They ate it up, and that whoever got a seat to that got something really special, because that will never happen again unless Kevin decides to do it at the Smog Castle when we open it up.
So it wasn't recorded or anything? Or you can't say, or oh, okay.
I don't. Well, Kevin. Let's just say Kev records everything.
Okay.
So what he does with it, I don't know. But almost everything he does gets recorded.
Okay. Well, let's segue into the Smog Castle. So it when it was in California the first time, it was a podcasting studio, pretty small. I don't remember the number of seats. How many seats are going to be roughly in this new one?
Well, we're about 1,400 square feet, and we're in the original location of the Quick Stop. We're at the end unit of the building. We have specific laws that we have to, we have a guideline through fire
Right.
and things like that. So capacity-wise, we have to have a limit. I don't think we'd ever go over 70. It's going to be a small, intimate venue, but we'll be doing 2 to 4 shows a weekend for when Kevin comes in. Now, Kevin's plan is, and as long as we can stay on schedule, obviously things are going to get in the way. A movie may get in the way where he's shooting a movie or he's shooting a television show, and his fans should understand that. But he's going to try his hardest to get there every month. And if he's not there, we'll hope to have somebody else doing something. But we're going to have shows every single month, which will turn into eventually every week, because the SModcastle isn't going to be just for podcasting. We plan on doing podcasts, which will have a live audience. If you don't want to have a live audience, you don't have to have a live audience. We're going to do live stage readings of a lot of Kevin's work that has never been published or seen. There's a lot of comics books that he's written that he's never got out there. I mean, obviously everybody knows about Superman Lives, that has never been out there, which, that's something I would love for him to bring out of the vault to read, because I think that would be a huge event. There's footage and stuff that he has that he would love to do commentary on, and Q&As of scenes that he shot that nobody's ever seen. So there's so much content that he has that he can show the fans that they've never seen before. So that's one aspect. We're also looking to do marriages. People want to get married by Kevin. Kevin's ordained. Brian O'Halloran's ordained. Some of the comic book men are ordained. So anybody that wants to do a wedding there, we're going to facilitate that space for them. If you want to have a showing of your film, because movie theaters are expensive to rent out. I mean, they're not going to give you a Saturday night or whatever. It's going to just way too much money. We'll give you that Saturday night. You can bring 70 of your friends and family there to show your movie. We want to do gaming nights. We're going to do like gaming tournaments. I'm talking to Jay Muse now about him getting involved with that, because he's a big gamer and he's involved with a lot of that stuff. So we want to do gaming tournaments. We want to do some type of comedy night, because a lot of our skewers out there are comedians. Some type of possibly art exhibitions, because there's a huge amount of artists that we love and appreciate in the View Askew universe that are always putting stuff out there. We want to try to represent them at some point, see if we can maybe do a show for them. or if they want to have a show there. But basically, it's a empty space that will have the ability to host roughly 70 people. And you can, obviously we have to make money. We have to pay the rent. We have to pay the utilities.
Right.
So we'll have that coming out soon, how much everything will cost for the space. But somebody just wants to have a birthday party and it want to be, for a cosplay, view askew, dress up, something. You can rent that space for an amount, and we will give it to you. There'll be a PA system there. There'll be 85-inch TV. There'll be 251-inch TVs. There'll be, recording equipment. We'll have a bunch of stuff there that's going to be available for people to use and rent. So it's not just what the Smog Castle was in LA. This is 10 times that. We're trying to give the fans the ultimate experience of doing everything.
That's awesome. So 2.0, but on steroids.
On steroids, yeah, because the podcasting thing is great, but we also, as a lot of the fans know, the shared universe, which was created by Mike and Ming from Comic Book Men, they have their podcast studio in Eatontown. So what we want to do is kind of work with them, collaborate with them on some levels where they could come in and bring their podcasters in there and do a live podcast. So we don't want to forget about them, because they kind of, have a good hold on podcasting and stuff right now in that area. And we want to promote them, work with them, and kind of do things hand in hand whenever we can with the shared universe. But we also want to utilize the fan base and try to get them involved on any level we can with the Smog Castle.
Great. I think the audio stopped recording. I think I'm just going to pull the audio from the video so we can keep going. Growing up, what kind of people inspired you and the things that you were working on? The skits, film, things like that.
Well, being in grammar school, okay, God, it's grammar school. So in grammar school, when I met Kevin and Mike Bellicose, I was a huge fan of Saturday Night Live. I mean, so was Kevin.
Right.
Kevin was too, and that's how we kind of gravitated towards each other originally. And same, we had a huge passion both for the Blues Brothers also. So you can kind of just, most people know, you can feel when there's creative people around you that want to, that kind of have the same aspirations that you do. So I was inspired by, SNL. I was a huge fan of Star Wars and all that kind of stuff, and movies in general. I just loved watching Saturday morning movies, Kung Fu theater. I was huge into Kung Fu and that kind of. I never did any of that stuff, but I was just amazed by all that. Jason and the Argonauts and a lot of the classic movies that we used to watch, and I always aspired to want to be that or be something like that. And my God, when I first saw, James Bond and 007, I was a huge fan of that. Those kind of things really made me think, maybe someday I could do something like that. And when I saw, or actually, me and Kevin had an argument. No, I wouldn't say an argument, a disagreement. In grade school, he's like, "Oh yeah, James Bond's the greatest, right?" And I was like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "But you haven't seen Indiana Jones yet." I was like, "Who the hell is Indiana Jones?" And he goes, "Raiders of the Lost Ark. I just saw it last night with my dad." He's like, "He blows 007 away. He's the greatest ever." And I was like, "No way, James Bond, best. Are you kidding me?" that weekend I went and saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, and kind of, I was like, you know, I was just amazed. I was like,
Yeah.
this is movie making right here. I mean, Spielberg just knocked it out of the park, you know? Uh, it's, it's those moments and those little things that, you know, as a young kid, you just see, and the power of the movie and the silver screen is just, it just, you know, it captures your imagination. Me and Kev used to make little films, which we have no record of, no evidence of, but we tried making our own little films when we were kids with the VHSs and stuff like that. But we didn't know what we were doing. That's why we don't have them, you know.
Right.
But yeah, it just, and then I was so jealous of him when he got to go to Universal Studios, because he used to go on these family trips with his mom and his dad, and he got to be a part of a Blues Brothers sketch at Universal,
Oh, cool.
because they pull people out of the audience to do these little sketches. And I was like, oh man, I'm so jealous. Blah, blah. And finally, when I got to go, they didn't have that anymore. But I actually was pulled out of the audience to do a Back to the Future one. So,
As Marty or just
no,
a Marty?
as, oh my goodness, as Doc.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was up on the watchtower trying to connect the electrical wires at
Yeah.
the, yeah. So so I got to do what he did, but I had my moment. Um, it wasn't the Blues Brothers, but me and him actually, a lot of people don't know, used to perform the Blues Brothers. Me and Kevin.
I could see that.
Yeah, he
Totally.
was Jake, I was Elwood, and we performed. Now back then, lip syncing was very big as far as karaoke and stuff.
Right.
But karaoke hadn't started. But me and Kev did a lip sync of Everybody Needs Somebody. And we
Yeah.
were dressed in the suits, the suitcase. We did the whole routine, the dancing, the briefcase with the chain, pulling out the harmonica. Kev even tried to do a somersault flip. We had the greatest time. I mean, it was just all those kind of things, you know, is why we're at where we are today. Those imaginations and those things that we do and the things that we did, uh, you know, you just don't forget where you came from and where you learned it from.
That's awesome. One of our bonus questions is kind of ties into that. Um, the podcast is called Your Creativity. So, what does creativity mean to you?
Well, I have it on two levels. One is a carpenter, so every day I go to work, I create something from scratch, from nothing. Um,
Right.
so that's one aspect of my life, and I've been doing that for 30, a little over 30 years now. So I've created a lot of stuff for people. Uh, and I don't even think I appreciate it anymore that much, because you kind of get numb to it. You know, you just go through the motions.
Right.
There's gratification because you're making that person very happy for giving them a bathroom, a kitchen, or building them a bookcase or whatever it is that they want. So at this point, in my life, now that I'm doing more producing, directing, writing, that creative side of me growing up, always doing those things when we were younger. Now, in my early 50s, uh, being able to create and write something and actually have it on the screen is very gratifying. I just did my first short 6 months ago that I wrote, directed, produced, starred in. I brought a small crew around of friends that I know and can rely on. And I created something from nothing and made it into something. Those kind of things breathe life into you.
Right. Yeah.
You know, they don't have to, like I said before, they don't have to be the greatest, pieces or the most, award winning. But if it's gratifying to you to actually take something that was nothing, just a speck in your mind, and create it and put it out there and say, I made this. You may not like it, you may like it. It may be controversial, which mine is very controversial. But again, it goes back to, like we talked about, like Kev always said, just go out and make something, create something. And there's nothing more fulfilling than creating something from nothing. Even if it's just for yourself. It doesn't have to be for somebody else. If you can just do it for yourself, it's very fulfilling. And I wish I would have listened to Kev a long time ago. He told me years and years ago, I'm going to say probably, wow, almost 20 years ago. He said, OD, just go out and make something. Just go do something. And, you know, me, I was thinking, well, I don't have the time or the money to take off of work to make something. But it's never too late. I mean, now my carpentry business, it's not slowing down, but I'm going to slow that carpentry business down because I'm at a point in my life where physically I really don't want to do it that much more. I get more enjoyment in creating other stuff, like writing a script, doing film, doing a pilot, a sitcom, whatever it is. Those are the things that I'm looking forward to now, and it gives you a lot of enjoyment just to create stuff. And again, it doesn't have to be our industry, the film, or it could be anything, dude. Anything you want. I got friends who create signs or art or anything. It's just people. I have a friend that worked on Wall Street for 40 years. Okay.
Okay.
Tons of money. He's a millionaire. He finds he just retired 6 months ago. He said he's the happiest he is now because what he does in his shed, he built himself a wood shop in his shed, and he makes things. He makes ashtrays, he makes plaques, signs, he gives them to people, things like he loves it. He said it's the most fulfilling thing that he's done. I mean,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, see, there's never a time limit on this kind of stuff. So the mind,
and the way that, yeah, and the way the world is now, it's a lot easier for you to get yourself out there and be seen, than it was, 20 years ago.
Oh yeah, well, I mean that brings it all back to like when Kev said, "Oh, you got to do something." Yes, that's true. But even back then, 20 years ago, it was extremely hard to get stuff out there, even to get equipment. But nowadays, it's so much easier. There's so many avenues to get your stuff out there. You don't even have to have equipment anymore. You can have a phone.
Yeah, your phone does everything. You can make and edit and publish right on it.
And it looks pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I mean, that new Gaga video they have on TV is amazing that you shot on an iPhone.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah.
Well, this next question is fun. Our next bonus question: who is your favorite Muppet and why?
Favorite Muppet? Well, I'd probably have to say it'd probably be Oscar the Grouch. And not that I'm grouchy. There was something about him coming out of that, coming out of the garbage can and eating the cookies and how, he was just all crazy and stuff. I mean, I mean, Kermit was, everybody loves Kermit,
Right.
But I think Oscar the Grouch is probably the one I grew up with. I enjoyed the most. But then the two guys at the balcony were pretty cool too, though.
Waldorf and Waldorf and the other one.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Gonzo's my favorite, but those two guys are
cool too. They're actually, I mean, come on, all Muppets are great.
Yeah, that's why I create this question because there's no wrong answer and they're all fun and they're all amazing.
No, I mean they're not.
And lastly, in the movie of your life, who would you want to play you?
So it has. Well,
It could be, the actor could be living or dead. Just who would you want to play you in the movie of your life?
ooh, man. It may be a little strange. He's dead, but if I was able to pick somebody to play my life, I'd probably say Elvis Presley.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a huge Elvis fan,
Right.
also, and not many people think he was the greatest actor in the world. Uh, but if you know this, a lot of the backstories of Elvis and stuff like that, uh, he was probably could have been one of the biggest stars in Hollywood. I mean, he was, uh, but to have somebody like that I admire as much as I do, uh, that would be pretty cool. The other one would probably be James Dean. I don't think there's anybody today that I could say, they would be cool. But yeah, I'm more of an old school kind of guy. I mean, I like a lot of the old stuff. Yeah.
A lot of good stuff from back then. So,
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, people always ask the question: if you had three people that you wanted to meet, it would be Elvis, Jesus, and John Belushi.
for me, it'd probably be Cary Grant, Tom Hanks, and Spielberg, maybe. Because I've met Kevin a handful of times, so you know, he's no longer because I get to see him,
Right.
generally once a year. But
Right.
from that time, Cary Grant, because he was just he was hilarious.
Oh, I mean, those are movie stars back then. Not
Definitely.
there's not many of them left anymore.
How many?
So,
So they've been releasing videos for the Smog Castle. Is there a rough timeline of we'll see more videos of the progress because it's planning to open in July at
uh,
this
June.
point?
We're shooting for June 20th. That was the plan. As long as you know,
Yeah.
went on today doesn't postpone it again, we are shooting for June 20th that weekend. Um, there'll probably be another video up next week.
Okay.
Yeah, since we were originally going to do it every week, but since our timeline has changed, now we have a lot more time, and there's just not enough. There's not enough content for us to put up there. So we're probably going to go bi-weekly, put a video up, and it's kind of just going to be the progression of the Smog Castle, with me showing you what I'm doing there. Some people may find it boring. I mean, it's me just sheetrocking, spackling, painting, just doing things like that. Just kind of the progression. It's kind of be like more of a home show of the Smog Castle, to a degree. I mean, obviously there'll be some funny little moments here and there, and uh, we'll mix it up once we get closer. But yeah, they'll keep coming. Yeah, the next one is like I said, probably sometime mid to late next week will come out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if so you can catch those on Kevin's YouTube channel. Um, where else can they catch on what you're working on? Shooting Clerks and other projects you have going on.
Yeah, so obviously we have Shooting Clerks is coming out at the end of the year. I have a film I helped produce, make a cameo in, called Gone for the Weekend, with Burbank Films. That's available on Amazon. I also have 100 Acres of Hell. It's a movie I produced and co-star in. That's a horror movie. That's on all streaming platforms out there. So I mean, it's DirecTV, iTunes, you name it, it's there. The only one it's probably not on is Netflix, because Netflix is, they just do Netflix and nobody else. So we
Yeah.
opted to go the other direction, and now we're on like 25 platforms. So we're pretty much everywhere with 100 Acres of Hell. Uh, I also got an animated sitcom I'm getting close to finishing. Uh, that's called The Secret Society of Handymen. Uh, that should, I'll probably release a trailer of that probably by the end of the year. That's been in the works for about 3 years. And then I got a huge project I'm working on with my friend Stacy Toy. It's a movie called Buda Vista Highway. We're probably looking at about hopefully a $4 to $6 million budget if things go well. And that's a true life story of some really crazy stuff about forgiveness, love, drugs. It's a tough one. People are going to be surprised by this one, but we got some interest already from Paramount, and an A-lister already looking at it. So hopefully that takes off. That would be really big for me. And then the last thing is I'm working on a pilot with my buddy Troy Bank. Troy Bank from Burbank Films, a pilot called On Your Own. That's a sitcom pilot. And then this coming weekend, I'm doing something with the Indie Brigade called DEF CON 1. That's an online convention.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So a lot of horror celebrities, independent filmmakers are all going to be doing a convention all weekend online, so people can interact with the independent filmmakers and ask questions, find things out. There'll be vendors where you can actually purchase goods still like you would at a convention, and talk to your favorite horror stars like Kane Hodder and Berryman. And it's a really, really cool concept, which George Romero Jr. is running at Indie Brigade. And I think it's something really cool for considering what's going on right now. I mean, podcasting, doing this that we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, it's good. It's good content. It gives us something to do, and gives people something to listen to and watch.
Well, I'll share the link with you're part of your Cre8tivity family, so you're on our share list. So anything you want shared with our listeners, I can push that through our socials. So I'll get those links from you and get that up. Well, thank you so much for your time, Ernie.
Thank you.
And have a good night, and stay safe and stay healthy, and we'll see you on the other side.
Yes, sir. I hope so.